There we go. So I am Anne Marie Blacketer, and I have the great pleasure of serving with the Lupus Texas Gulf Coast chapter of the Loop of LFA. And we have started a third Thursday series. This is our first, I think. So as we roll into 2026 for us. Now we've done these before. We do Lupus 101 a few times a year. And this time we're doing a different series each month, but Lupus 101 will return twice a year in January and in July for those that are new or newer to the disease. And so what we want to talk about tonight is clinical trials and how incredibly important they are and how incredibly important it is for everyone from every community to be able to participate in a clinical trial. And that means we get to have a real conversation about some of our concerns, our questions, what we think they are, what they really are, all the different things. And so I'd like to kick that off with a dear friend to our organization and hopefully to me as well, is Dr. Sreedhar Mandayam. He is a nephrologist with MD Anderson. He is also, I think you're a professor at MD Anderson in nephrology as well, and also has a nonprofit clinical trial organization where he is a principal investigator. And so I'll turn that over to Dr. Sreedhar Mandayam.
Hi, good evening. Happy to see so many smiling faces. And I don't really have a presentation. I didn't make a
Mhm.
slide deck. I think those things are really boring.
Yeah, me too.
So here to take questions. Again, as I tell my kids, the only dumb question is the one you didn't ask, because now you
Agree.
don't know the answer.
Agree.
So I do clinical trials, have been doing trials since about 2009. So close to almost 20 years of experience in all kinds of diseases, mostly kidney related, but definitely other rheumatologic conditions. And I used to work at Baylor before where I did a lot of trials, and now I do trials at various other centers. So, do you want me to just launch on a quick description of the various kinds of trials
You know what? I
and
think
see if
we
people have.
start with the phase one, phase two, phase three, and let's touch on why it's important, especially for our communities of color to engage more than just the typical college student or um, what do they say, the suburban housewife kind of thing to be able to engage.
Yeah, I think this is so it's a huge problem when we take care of patients after the trial is done and the drug has been released and FDA approved. When we go back and look at why we decided this drug is better than the existing standard of care, and it's usually based on a phase 3 study that has studied about 300, 400 people. Some half of them got the drug and half of them received the standard of care with placebo. So when I see a patient that is sitting in front of me that I need to treat for a particular disease, I typically have to go back and say, does this patient benefit from this drug? Right? So usually we can say, yes, lots of people that take cholesterol medicines live longer and don't have heart attacks. But then when I have a person sitting in front of me, do I know that this human being will actually benefit from this medicine? And so if the trials are not conducted in people that look like the human that is sitting in front of me, then I really have no idea if I give this medicine to him or her that they will get better or they will face some side effect that we had never
Right.
thought of.
Yeah.
So the irony, the tragedy of lupus is it is a lot more common in African American and Hispanic women. But if I look at the clinical trials that a lot of the lupus drugs got approved on, they're mostly middle-aged white women or maybe some middle-aged white men. They're not the ones that are sitting in front of me in clinic and where I'm scratching my head trying to figure out which is the next treatment to give you because this thing that we thought was going to cure you didn't. So it's
Mhm.
really important that all kinds of patients are in trial, so that everybody is represented, because we can then identify if there are certain populations, people, age groups, race, gender, where certain drugs don't work. So then we don't expose you, the patient, to something that would harm you or would not help you at all. I just had somebody in clinic today that asked me, 78-year-old gentleman with some kind of kidney problem, saying, how many people like me have had this drug and gotten better? And the answer is probably zero, because most 78-year-old people don't show up to do clinical trials. So
Mhm.
we are slowly moving towards personalized precision medicine, but it cannot be personalized or precise if most people don't show up. It will be
Yeah.
personalized and precise for that rare white woman that showed up to the trial. Speaking of rare white women, I see Michelle Eisenberg on the call. So she's the rarest of the lot. So we should have her come, and she's the PI on most of our trials and
And the PI
actually
is,
takes care of these patients.
and the PI is a principal investigator. Is that right, Michelle?
I think she's on mute, so we cannot hear her, and I hope she's
Yep.
not driving.
There you
Okay,
go.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I joined late, so
No problem. We're
no
just we're
problem.
just getting started and talking about the importance of a variety of individuals being engaged in a clinical trial. It is an open mic conversation for everyone, and so I just want to let you know of that, so everybody's available to ask questions. But Sreedhar was talking to you about being a PI, and I'm not sure everyone knows what a PI is if it's not a private investigator.
It's
It's principal investigator, which is the one that conducts the clinical trial along with the support team.
So the principal investigator is the primary physician, doctor responsible for the conduct of the study. So if there is a clinical trial, that person makes sure that the study is conducted according to the rules of the trial and is responsible for the well-being of the patients. They're not working for the pharmaceutical company. They don't really have any skin in the game on whether the drug works or not. But they definitely have skin in the game to make sure that the patients going through the trial are safe. Because
Mhm.
our job as principal investigators is to assess safety and stop you from getting harmed by something in a trial if something is not working. So
I
I
think
was just
that's,
going on my soapbox saying we need more people of all kinds to come to
you
trials
know,
and not just one group of humans show up and then we have to start using these drugs on everybody without knowing whether it'll work for them.
it was an interesting situation. We have a lupus warrior who's also an ambassador for us, who for her her lupus-induced diabetes and some obesity concerns was taking Ozempic. And she was having some difficult complications with that. And we had to go back to the manufacturer and say, was this studied in patients with lupus? And the answer was no. And of course, I mean, why would they if it's seen as such a rare situation? So I think, that's another important indication. And maybe Miss Shawn, you can talk a little bit to us about why it is that certain communities, and in particular, I'll just be direct. Everybody here probably knows me as being direct. That especially our communities of color, African American women, and the hesitation in engaging in a trial so that we can talk about the realities of what it used to be and how things have improved now to make them much safer.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate this conversation this evening, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. As you know, and first let me introduce myself. I apologize. I'm Shawn Tatum Williams. I am program coordinator with the African American Male Wellness Agency, and we participate and we are part of currently one of the largest blood pressure studies, research studies ever done in the US. And really excited about that. And we'll talk about that a little more. But and overall, what I've experienced in the years that I've worked with and in clinical trials is that there's a huge amount of mistrust in the Black and Brown communities stemming from the early 1900s. Of course, we all remember and think back to the Tuskegee experiment and those type things. But mistrust is probably one of the biggest. If you will, in the Black and Brown community, we hear a lot, even with the research study that we have currently, where there aren't any medications or placebos or any of those things to take. This is really just them taking control and managing their numbers of their blood pressure. There's still some barriers with that. So systemic barriers, so a lack of awareness is another. I think that these type of groups and organizations bringing this to the community is really and really making it a more commonplace. Whereas it's studies and research studies in the Black and Brown community have always, as I said, have come with a negative context. So lack of awareness, access to care also. As we know, in many of the African American and Latina and even in Houston, some of our Asian communities, there is a lack of access and them getting that access to care or even being exposed to their providers that they may go and see may or may not even recommend them for clinical studies. So really starting to see more and more providers of color because we choose our providers and it's a trust factor, right? When we're choosing our provider. So if we trust that provider and the provider then guides us to this, but my first study was, I was tested for lupus and I'm still tested for lupus every time I have a flare, but I've never had a positive. I've had the borderline, I've had the, but my first test was from my rheumatologist who was African American. And I would have never got into that trial had it not have been for him and his persistence in saying this could be where it may not be lupus and you may find out it's an autoimmune disease. But the access to care and exclusion criteria is another thing. Some of the trials that have been out there have been the setting is a turnoff if that's I guess this most simplest way of where the study is happening. Some of the studies are happening at a facility in the medical center or in a medical facility, and sometimes those are barriers as transportation getting there too.
Yep.
It's also a lot of folks just have that fear of being in that clinical setting. So thinking about that, taking it out of the clinical setting, if possible, some of it, you just can't avoid that just because of the type of study it is. But those are those things that are the big outer layers. And I think I mentioned obviously the physician bias, but those are those five big ones that tend to really plague our communities.
Do we still see, Dr. Mandayam, do we still have pushback or hear of pushback from our Black and Brown community as regard to how the communities have been treated in the past with clinical trials, whether it's Tuskegee or, I mean, I know the Gila situation is another, but are we still hearing that feedback of mistrust and concern in that space?
Most people that I talk to typically come to see me because they're not doing well and they think they need care. So they're not really worried about what happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 25 years ago, what happened to other people. They're mostly concerned about, can you help me get better and get on with my life? I am sure in the back of everybody's mind, they are thinking, can I trust this guy? Whether they're black, white, brown, Indian, Chinese, right? So, do I know this person? Can I trust what this person is trying to get me to do? And is this going to help me? That is their primary concern. I am sure communities of varying sorts have had all kinds of histories and they are going to be wary about it. I doubt that any human being walks into a clinical trial thinking, yay, this is a good thing, let me try. Everybody is scared, some people more scared than others. And it is incumbent upon people like me to sit and talk them down and explain why this is not something you should be afraid of and how this will help you and your brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a real problem. When I see patients in clinic and I have no idea whether this drug works on them, then I don't know how to take care of their brothers and sisters.
Yeah. So what does that sound like when you want to encourage someone to participate? And is there a difference if it's phase 1 versus phase 3?
Oh, certainly, right? So if we don't really go into lots of details on the various phases when people come to the trial sites, but in general, phase three is a lot safer. It has undergone a whole series of tests to make it to phase three. This is the final sprint that will get it across the finish line. So for sure, phase three is more likely to be safer and also probably more likely to need a diverse group of people
Yeah.
because that means it's going to go out to the community next. Phases one and two are riskier, but then they have a lot more safeguards. So we see our phase one patients a lot more frequently than we see our phase three. We do a lot of tests on them, on their blood and urine, scans and labs. So, the process is that every drug has to go from phase one to two to three. And in general, you would prefer to be on a phase three because it's sort of ready to be released to the general public, but not, sometimes it is, you may be in a disease state where there are not enough phase three trials, and your best chance is a phase one trial or a phase two trial. There are lots of lupus drugs now that are in phase one and two that if you don't sign up for, you won't ever get to see them for 10 years. And it may be too late for some of our colleagues here. So I think that the phasing is probably more for the administration of the study. But if
Mhm.
you believe that your doctor is going to take care of you, irrespective of whatever phase you're in, then you should sign up for what they say. So I totally agree with Ms. Tatum Williams when she says your provider should be the one guiding you to this. And I hate to say this, it almost never happens. Most doctors seem
Really?
to be afraid of referring patients to trials. They think that somebody will steal their patient or patient will never come back to me, all kinds of barriers. So it is few and far between where you see doctors saying, "Here, go see this doctor, get on a trial." I wish that was not so, but it unfortunately is. And
Well,
I'm really curious to hear how other people think we should make this more easily accessible.
One of the mantras that I tell my own patients that are considering a clinical trial is that today's clinical trial will likely and may likely be tomorrow's standard of care.
Yeah.
mm,
And so I frame it in that way. And if I could just kind of comment on the previous commentary about black brown bias, I don't find that to be true today. I'm sure that exists in that community. But I have a great majority of African American patients who unfortunately are afflicted with lupus. We know there's a predilection there in that group. But I don't believe that my patients are distrustful of me because I'm Caucasian and vice versa. That is taken completely out of the equation in my experience. And that may not be true in others' experiences, but I think that kind of bias is kind of going away, especially when they're receiving a standard of care and they're actually improving. There's a
yeah.
whole other bunch of groups of people that are discriminated against today, including myself, Jewish people. And
Mhm.
so, because of that background that I come from, I certainly don't participate in any of that bias. And I think all patients in my practice get equal superior quality of
Mhm.
care. I don't, that doesn't, that's right. I
Well,
know that
and
there are people in other communities that feel that, that there's a disservice, and there are actually papers about African American women that are pregnant, not getting standard of care and quality. That does exist. But I think in our realm, at least here in Houston, I don't look at people that way.
Dr. Einzelberg, I think that's a testament to you as a physician,
Yep.
and your ability to get to know the patient, express the curiosity to help find answers for the patient. And from what I heard from Christina and her partner, a great deal of empathy and understanding as well. And I think that's the testament of having someone that
Mhm.
gets it and doesn't actually say, oh, anything else coming into the play. And that's a testament to your level of care. So I think that's wonderful. And I think what I'm hearing is we need to teach more physicians about engaging in supporting clinical trials. Does that sound familiar, Dr. Mandayam?
I think so, and I think we also need to work with Ms. Tatum Williams to go into the community and ask for this, right? So if your doctor doesn't refer, that doesn't mean you don't have access. People can look for themselves and see what studies are happening. There is a universe of difference between cancer patients and non-cancer patient. Every cancer patient I see comes with a booklet full of things they have done in research on black, white, brown, Indian, doesn't matter. They're all so well versed in what they are looking for, which specific disease, which specific pathway, treatment, where's the trial. I have people that fly from San Diego to MD Anderson because they want to see get in a specific trial. But I never see that for patients that have lupus or IgA nephropathy or diabetic kidney disease, which are far more prevalent and far more common, far more likely to kill you than some rare sarcoma. But people don't seem to want to. I don't know why, but I think that we, as I'm going to maybe be a patient sometime in the future, so I need to know, and all of us need to know what is the best thing that is available and what is the future, how can I access that? And so
Right.
it is especially for communities where they don't have access to care, poor insurance,
Mhm.
inadequate insurance. Clinical trial is the best thing possible. You get labs, you get seen by a multitude of doctors. We actually find problems and send patients to get treatments, even though they're not in the trial, because once we find something, we are obliged to make sure that we at least follow up, send them to the right specialists. You'd be surprised at the number of people who have referred to orthopedics, infectious disease, all kinds of specialists because we found something that they didn't know they had.
Mm.
Um, it's an opportunity to engage with the health system and help yourself.
And one of the biggest misnomers is that clinical trials are experimental. This is what I hear continuously and people, not just my clinic, my family, friends. Oh, that's experimental. It's, and the patients will say that I don't want anything like that. No one's going to experiment on me. And so I hear that. And that is something we really need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that with the relationship that we have with Methodist Hospital, so we are the boots on the ground with this PCORI blood pressure study because we have that relationship with those. And so we are in the communities. And you're right, doctor, it requires a lot of education. Even just the education on knowing your numbers, right? And then understanding why so many of Black and brown people are on multiple blood pressure medications. Well,
Correct.
these
Correct.
medications were going through trials. They didn't want to experiment, right?
Correct.
So now we're experimenting live. You're going to take this. Let's see how it works. Let me know in 2 weeks. And that's a difficulty, especially with blood pressure, right? Because it's a silent killer. People walk around with headaches and all day and blurry vision. Even on this past Sunday, my colleague and I were doing blood pressure
Mhm.
screening at a local church, and we had 3 people that were severely elevated. 2 that we sent away in ambulances. 1 still in the hospital with brain swelling.
Oh
Mhm.
my God.
Um,
Isn't that amazing?
and
Amazing.
again, did you take your meds this morning?
No.
No,
Yeah.
not this morning. So just those things and the education, right? When we sit down and we talk to them and explain to them, why they're on 3 different meds, and they never understood that from the beginning, and then it is also a talking point for us to talk to them about joining the study, and what those outcomes look like for them. Again, going to the churches, and we're in the community. We're at barbershops, we're at beauty supplies, libraries. I was at Church's Chicken Waffle House. We are in the community, really making that touch point. I really feel that that's a great opportunity, but it's going to require way more than what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. The way I think about lupus is, right, just like we don't know how to cure cancer, we certainly don't know how to cure lupus. At least the last time I checked, unless Michelle tells me otherwise. So
No.
every person that has lupus should be out there looking to find a trial for a medicine that works for them. Just like every human being that has pancreatic cancer in America, I know for sure is doing this. So we as a community need to go out and tell our brothers and sisters, if you have lupus, it is not acceptable for you to say, this is my fate, I'm just going to take steroids or I'm going to hurt or
Right.
I'm going to deal with it however I can because there is a better way.
Yeah.
I think Michelle is dropping out. I don't know if she left.
She
You-
may have just a
Okay.
technology issue. I'll keep an eye out for her. Can
Okay.
you talk a little bit about the trials that you have going on today at Prolato?
Yeah, I mean, not just that location, but in general, like let me talk about what the science is moving to, right? So when we diagnose patients with lupus, we look at something called the ANA level and the dsDNA level in the blood. So these are autoantibodies. So for some
Mhm.
reason that we're not very clear about, it looks like the immune system starts attacking itself. It starts making antibodies against your DNA. And this is what the anti-dsDNA antibody that they measure. All of our antibodies, whatever antibody we have in our system, come out of something called B cells and plasma cells. So they're a kind of cell that are present within the blood and the bone marrow. So for years, we have been trying to find the B cell that makes antibodies for lupus and the T cell, which is another kind of immune cell that makes antibody for lupus. And all of the trials now that we have are more and more specific for what we think is that special kind of cell that actually makes the antibodies that damages your joints or nerves or heart muscle or brain cells or all parts of the body that it does in lupus. We have infusions, we have injections, we have pills, and that's what all these drugs are doing. They're going after B cells and T cells that stimulate the B cells. And if we control, suppress them, presumably we can make your lupus better so you don't have the flares. And we have moved from very non-specific therapies, cyclophosphamide, Cytoxan that was used from
Mhm.
the 1950s to treat cancer, and now on to more and more specific therapies. And right now we're actually going into something called CAR NK cells, where we take your body's own T cells and tweak them to go and attack the abnormal cells inside you. So it's
Mhm.
sort of the smartest kind of bomb that you can get. It's your own body's cell that is attacking the bad cell. This is derived from cancer. Why don't we all get cancer? Because we have an immune system that recognizes a cancer cell and kills it. So if we can take our immune cells and make it recognize a lupus antibody producing cell and go after it, then we can potentially cure lupus. And we have cured lupus in certain patients when they've
Mhm.
received CAR T cells for other indications. And so now we're launching CAR T cells and CAR NKs for specifically for patients with lupus. That is the future. That and probably T cell, something called T cell bispecific engagers.
So the CAR T, and you're able to take your own cells
Mhm.
and, as you say, tweak them, and th-
Reprogram them, yes.
and then create enough of those cells to make
Yeah,
your own treatment.
yeah.
And the theory that I hear rumbling around, and I have no idea if this is true or not. This is just the rumor is that because it's your own cells, that people with lupus may have a lesser chance of rejection risk, or is that just made
There is
up?
no rejection. You can't reject your own cells. Rejection usually occurs in transplants where you
Mm-hmm.
give somebody else's kidney or heart or lung or bone marrow cells.
Mm-hmm.
In this condition, there is no rejection. The bigger problem here is it works too well. So what
Yep.
happens is the CAR T cells go in and start killing a lot of abnormal B and T cells, and that releases some bad humors called cytokines. So patients get something called cytokine release syndrome that makes them sick for a few days. And then when they recover from cytokine release, they're essentially cured. So we have lots of patients with lymphoma that
Mm.
get CAR T
Okay.
cells and are cured. They're not on any chemo, they're not on any medicines, they're walking, talking, living lives, moving on.
That's
So if
amazing.
if that promise is delivered in lupus, and it has been in some patients, and it will be in more and more, that is going to be a cure. Finally, there may be a cure for lupus. Right now, everything we have is control and
Okay.
treat.
Okay. And so do you have, I'm gonna let you not necessarily plug, but most of us, I think, are local. There might be some from a few other spots. And if we wanted to participate in a lupus trial now, are there things
Fine.
enrolling now?
Yeah, yeah. All of them are, so these are all brand new studies. They just started enrolling. So they're going to be enrolling for at least another year or two till we get all readouts. So please feel free to share my contact information, email, phone number, whatever.
Of course.
People can reach out and we'll get them through the trials. Our biggest problem is not enough people come and ask, can I be in a trial? The
Yeah.
moment you show up and ask me that, you're treated like a VVIP and we take care of you. So. In fact,
So,
several of our patients we have taken care of for 5 years, they finish their trial and they still come back. And we run labs on them, we check and see how they're doing. They
to be
never
fair,
leave.
it's a fun spot to be in. You have a great team and it's a very
Yeah,
inviting environment. So,
good people.
can you talk a little bit about how you come up with the protocols of who gets to be in the trial versus who can't be in the trial? So, what questions are being asked and how we come up with those questions?
And so I think that is a hugely important topic that hardly ever gets mentioned. So the protocols for the clinical trials are typically written by something called the study group. So a group of scientists, doctors, clinicians, some of whom work for the company, but most of whom are just doctors like me and Eisenberg and others in the community and in universities, sit down together and they come up with this is the existing best care. This is the standard of care, and we are going to compare the new drug against the existing best care. So they
Mm-hmm.
come up with drug A versus best available care. Let's take 50 patients, 100 patients based on certain statistical calculations and write a protocol saying one half will get the drug, the other half will get whatever is best, and we follow them. And labs and scans. Obviously, the company wants to get the best possible patients that are most likely to show success so they can
Mm-hmm.
take the drug. Obviously, the doctors want to get all possible patients that whether they're the best or not, because we want our patients to get the best
Right,
possible treatment. So a
right.
compromise is made somewhere between the very select few that the company wants and everyone that Mandayam and his ilk want. And so we find a common ground for inclusion and exclusion. It is still not as inclusive as we'd like for it to be because the
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceutical company tries its best to winnow down the group that is most likely to succeed. And their argument is if we get this trial approved and the FDA approves it, then we can go back and add other groups that we didn't look at in the
Mm,
original trial. And that sometimes does work. I am very strongly encouraging patients and patient advocacy groups to be at the table when the trial protocols are written. Once the protocol is written, submitted to
mm-hmm.
the FDA, and comes down to my site, I don't have any flexibility on how to change it.
Right, right.
Not allowed. So, Lupus Foundation and you patients should be talking to Sanofi and Novartis and
Yes.
Johnson and Johnson and all of the pharmaceutical companies so that you're at the table when the trial protocol is written. Rarely do I see that happen. I've gone to so many of these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly do I ever see a patient representative there. I think it's changing, but
It,
not
it
as
is,
quickly.
yeah. And I agree, Dr. Mandime. That is something in our space with lupus, that is something we are actually requesting from the pharmaceutical companies that when they have these opportunities to engage with the community. So
Yeah.
we did have some good news that one of our larger pharmaceutical companies in the space that already has a drug in the space is actually bringing in patients for that very reason. So we're excited to see them because they're big enough to kind of lead the way, but it's just a drop in the bucket. There's much more to go.
And all of you should write letters to the FDA saying they should demand that patient
Mm-hmm.
representatives sit on the protocol committee to make sure that this is palatable and acceptable.
Yep.
Because what
Agree.
use is curing lupus in like 1/10,000th of the total population that has it? We want to be able to cure it in everyone, not just in that one miraculous human being that met the
I,
criteria for
Agree.
the study. So
We noticed that the patient for the disease is brought in at the very end
correct.
instead of at the very
It's the
beginning.
very
And
beginning. So
yeah.
that's it's changing for kidney disease, where I do a lot of trials because over the years, enough of us have yelled at the companies, and so now they bring in the patients early on.
Hmm.
But it has to happen for other conditions too.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I would agree. I know you answered Floydrika's question about um, awareness between the cancer and lupus. And I know of very few lupus patients that actually are actively looking for trials. And I think you're right, Dr. Mandayam, that if somebody gets a cancer diagnosis and they say, oh, we don't have a cure, we don't have a treatment, they go gangbusters to go find a trial to get into. I know my own brother-in-law had a terrible case of melanoma that he eventually lost that fight, but he was in the same trial at Emory that Jimmy Carter was in for his cancer until he was too sick to actually be able to continue. But they went out and fought to find something to get in. And I'd love to see our lupus community really rally together to find these trials. And if you have some in phase 1 now at Prolato, do you have
Yeah.
phase 2 as well?
We have some phase two. We have one or two phase three, but we mostly do a lot of phase one and two. That's where it seems that there is the need. So I'm bringing a parallel to another disease that I take care of called IgA nephropathy.
Okay.
It's a kidney condition, and it used to be, we thought it was more common in Asians, but we're finding it everywhere. So about 6 years ago, there was nobody doing trials in IgA, one company. They somehow got lucky. Patients approved. And after that, now we have about 18 companies that have launched clinical trials in IgA nephropathy.
Wow.
It is so patients for IgA nephropathy anymore because there's so many drugs out there, so many new studies out there. So pharmaceutical companies, or like Pfizer or Novartis, when they launch a study, if they see that they can find patients and enroll quickly, then it gives them an impetus to add another trial, try a new drug, bring more to the market. If it is some rare disease that nobody ever shows up, then they're not going to invest in these studies. So we as a community need to start showing participating.
Wow. I mean, I think it's my connection that's frozen on you guys. Sorry. I apologize for that.
No.
We actually are working with University of Houston to compile some numbers, and we're pulling the data on how many people are actually diagnosed with lupus, SLE or CLE within our hospital network system, our clinic network system. And instead of using the insurance numbers that a lot of the pharmacy companies can use, they're able to access data directly from the state of Texas, hospital numbers and stuff I don't have to worry about because they just give them to me. The last time we ran this, we found within just Harris County alone, and now we're pulling the whole state, we found 38,300 people diagnosed with SLE in Harris County alone in a 12-month period. Unique and individual people, and being able to see those numbers, maybe that gives us the might, if you will, to go back to the pharmas and say, we're here and we want a seat at that table.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, it's a business for them, right? So if they're going to have
Mm-hmm.
more customers, absolutely, they are going to find treatments and sell it to them. And then Pfizer made lots of COVID vaccine not because it wanted to save you and me, but because they figured out that if they made a COVID vaccine, everybody would vaccinate themselves and they can make trillions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have patients and they're not getting better, then we should all be asking for better treatments. There is no excuse.
Agreed.
Um,
Agreed. It sounds like we need to find a way to arm. So I'm struggling with how to put it, but what we discovered is a lot of our lupus patients are not given the opportunity for biologics. So we went to the companies that make them, and we got the brochures to take out to the community, to send out to our lupus warriors and have them available. could we do something similar where we're arming our patients to talk to their physicians about these clinical trials?
Let us ask our patients. We have them on this
Yep.
chat, hopefully,
I
and
see
let us,
Zarel there,
yeah,
and she's a patient. Hey, girl.
what does she think? How can I make Zurel come and be participating in a clinical trial to make her better?
Um, I don't know because I've been the guinea pig for a very long time to the point where I didn't trust doctors after that. And so I basically, not to say I don't take medication, but I take it the way I feel the way my body is responding to it at the time that I need it. So I would need more information to do a clinical trial
Okay.
because unfortunately, a lot of the medications and the side effects to them make me worse instead of better. And I'm not trying to be worse in this walk when I'm trying to live, and not having a support system outside of the house is great, but when you don't have that support system inside of the house, that's something different because then you're fighting to live on your own and do what you need to do, but can't it makes it harder to do things when you're going through that and the medication is making you worse. And it was like, no, it's great, just keep taking it. But it's like and no one's really listening. And from my experience, just those experiments where they just want to see what happens means they don't listen to you.
I think that 100% agree, legitimate. Almost every patient I see says this when I talk to them, sit down. I mean, yes, the way care is delivered is almost sort of people do protocol therapy and nobody really knows whether this is the right treatment for you. But we need people like you to come in so that way I can figure out if this is the right treatment, right? We don't we get a drug approved based on the people that show up and we did the study on. I don't have a very good way to know whether you're the one that this one will work. So even outside a clinical trial, when you go see your doctor, they are to some extent experimenting because they don't know that this drug is the correct one for you. And
What can I say on that? I mean, the whole system is experimentation because doctor itself means practice medicine. So it's more or less a communication thing and trusting, knowing that the doctor's actually going to listen to you and not just treat you like a guinea pig. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we felt like guinea pigs,
yeah,
trying to live life. And it's like here, you try all these different things and they don't tell you the real side effects for them, or they don't they're trying to figure, and some of them may not even know all the real side effects, but they're not honest about that.
absolutely. Yeah.
If they were honest about that, then you think differently. It's basically allow me to make the best decision based off the knowledge that you have. Don't
Correct.
think that you know everything and try to make me assume that you know everything when you actually don't. And so I
Very,
would trust
very,
the one doctor that I did trust is the one that told me I don't know everything, but I'm in a system where if I don't know, I can find out and we'll work this out together. And he didn't just try to push all medication down my throat. He actually did some natural things that worked and then gave me the medication on the back end and said, hey, okay, now that we've got this out of the way, let's do this. And that actually made me stay with that doctor. So if we had more doctors like that, we would come out to the clinical trials and say, hey, I can trust this doctor that he's not just trying to push something on me and actually listening to me for, if I got sick.
I agree
So
with you 100%. There are very few doctors that are secure enough to look at a patient in their eye and say, I don't know how to help you, but I'm going to try my hardest. I don't know everything there is to know, but I'm going to go find out and get back to you. Very, 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 very few human doctors that have that kind of courage. If you find someone that has it, please hold on to them. Don't let them go. Uh, and this is not just for clinical trials. This is for day-to-day clinical practice. We don't have a magic wand that tells us which drug will work for whom. We just mostly work by the law of averages. And for sure, some things will not work on you that has worked on somebody else that I have previously tried this. So I think that doctors that can communicate better often have better results from their patients, even with the same drugs, because they know how to set expectations and listen. Um, But that still doesn't take away the fact that if I do all of my studies on middle-aged white women and I have to come back and give you this medicine, I really have no idea whether it's going to work for you or not, or what side effect you would get. So that's why we need all people to come and be part of our studies.
And I agree. I mean, Zarel, thank you so much for you just validated what I deal with on a day-to-day basis, being in the field and talking to people who look like me, right? So the studies that I've been in and where I have the most success has been able to show others that were in the study. And so there's people just like you, people in your neighborhood, people that go to the same doctor, people that have the exact same condition, diagnosed the same way you were, making that relation. And again, the trust, and that's really where it's come from. So I really wish that the doctor that was on here that jumped off for she had to go was able to with that from a patient who's here on the call. We all know that it happens, but and it's not just in the African American and brown community, right? It happens in Latina, Asian. All of us have some little bit of we don't want to be a guinea pig in us, right? But I really appreciate you sharing that, Zero. That was very transparent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Muted myself, so I wouldn't interject, but would you say that the treatments that you're seeing now in the trial pipeline, Dr. Mandayam, are they different than what we've had in the past that might have, the methotrexates and the Cellcept and those harsher? Are you seeing a difference
Yeah,
there?
absolutely. I think the newer medicines are much safer and they're much more targeted. So therefore, these are not like the ones that we had in the past that had indiscriminate side effects. They're also more potent, so when they work really well, and you get fairly lasting remissions in the ones that it works in. So I think that not all medicines will work for all patients. We know that very well. So that's why we need to have multiple different types of medicines, different types of patients being tried with these medicines, so we can figure out which one is the precise one for you. We are getting safer, we are getting stronger, we're trying different pathways, and so we are hoping to hit the home run and actually be able to take people, cure them, and stop the necessity to take lifelong Plaquenil or lifelong prednisone or any of the other medicines that many of our patients take.
I mean, that to me is that's an astonishing statement. And we always hope and want to work toward a cure.
Yeah.
To think that we could, I think ACR last year talked about just 5 milligrams of ACR, sorry, the American College of Rheumatology, talked about 5 milligrams of steroids or less and focusing on remission. And now to hear a clinical trial could be in the works that would actually lead to a cure.
Happening, not in the works, it's happening. In our lifetime, there will be a cure. The science is advancing. So we will see it, and this will be something I'm hoping that people, when they get diagnosed, well, we don't have to wait. Right now, the trials are taking people that are pretty advanced. As we learn more, as we can get safer, better, we'll probably have teenage people, kids, girls, boys that diagnose, and immediately we figure out a way to help them so they never go through all the trouble that people are going through right now. So it is going to happen. I have faith, and it probably will happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
That would be absolutely glorious. I want to break out in an amen and just, start throwing my hands around and all of that, because that's, that is something that, we know we've lost patients. We lost Lisa in February after a really hard battle. And we have another warrior that is actually doing her own fundraiser to bring in dollars to do her own stem cell T trial because she can't get into a trial. She's so far advanced.
Have them reach out to me and let me see if we can figure out if we can get them into the CAR NK or the CAR T studies.
Okay. You do know her, but I'll send you a text on who she is. But
Okay.
I know you know her, and it's such a tough disease. And I'm thinking about Draca, who's on the call and was diagnosed at age 11, and all the things that that she had to go through. And I mean, we have a couple dozen kids in our programs now that are under
It's
the age of
coming. In a
17.
few years, people
Mm,
will be diagnosed and treated in their teenage years, so they don't have to go through adulthood and have these problems. Yeah. I need
yep,
to take a Tylenol. Give me a quick second, have a
yep,
headache, but I'll be back
yep.
in a
No,
minute. Thank you.
we've broken the doctor, y'all. Can you imagine?
No,
I
that's
can't.
news to hear. Within 5 years, that's just remarkable. I know
That
there's a lot
is.
of strides that have been made, but when you put a time frame around it, you can realistically look at that. Those are things that one, give our lupus warriors hope,
Yes.
and a northern star, because that northern star can get you further. It's like as a birth doula, we talk about focal points, right? When you're in delivery, right? But when you're going through treatment, to have that northern star, that focal point of this is where I'm going. And when I get here, this is where I'm going to achieve the most best outcomes for
Hmm.
my disease that I
Hmm.
that I manage.
Hmm.
So to say that, for someone who's been battling something like you said, Micah, who's been since 11, and to think in 5 years or less, or 10 years or less, you could have a life-changing cure for a
Yeah.
disease that has been so debilitating and has taken so many of us far
Yeah.
too soon.
I completely agree. Dr. Mandayam,
Dr.
you just
Mandel.
made everybody's night. You just
You did. I'm sorry you
we're gonna
have a
It's,
migraine. I want to come in and massage your head for
we're,
you, because you
we're
need to be
gonna
uplifted. You need to be supported. You don't need to worry about anything. We need to make sure you have everything you need so you can focus
yes.
on
wait,
bringing this
wait.
to a cure.
What I need is more patients to come and go through the
Yes.
trial so we can find the right things for them.
Yes.
And so
And I
this is
think
wonderful.
that is something that I will ask everyone on the call on the meeting tonight to please share the information. And Dr. Mandayam, I can share your contact information, but I'd love to share information about the
Aw.
trial. So I will circle back. Um, yeah, that's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'll circle back so that we can talk about getting this information out to all. I think we have 12,000 or so warriors that we work with. And if this is that close, we need all hands on deck. We need all hands on deck. Zarel, did you want to say something?
I did. Quick question. So these trials, are we allowed to know what goes in all of them, or is it you just trying it out and we don't know? I
No,
don't know.
no,
I'm sorry. I'm that one that has a
No,
bunch of questions.
no,
no.
you have to know. You will
Those are
know
great
what is going
questions.
on. No, no, absolutely. There is no secrecy. The trial, it's all publicly available information, and we can show you how to find it. Actually, Google will know the answer for almost everything in the world. And so,
So we
right
would know
before I
all the
got on this call, I
ingredients of
was
what the trial,
Googling what
yeah,
the
well,
drugs
Google,
do.
but we would know everything that's going
You
into our
should.
bodies, right? Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
every last bit of it.
Hmm.
So in the phase one and the phase two trials, you will know whether you're getting the drug, what kind of drug, how much, 100%. In the phase three trials, there's something called blinding because they have to know, they have to show that it is better than what is existing right now. So therefore, in the phase three trials, you will know what the drug is, but you won't know whether you got it.
Right.
So you will have
So
all
it would be the
information.
placebo thing, right? Whether
Correct.
you get the drug or the placebo.
That part is blinded, so I won't know, you won't know, but you will know what the drug is and everything else that we're
Right.
giving you. There
And
is
it's
no secret.
and it's not placebo and not taking your regular medicines. It's
Taking your
placebo with
best medicine with placebo
yes.
versus the new drug.
And that's a big misconception in our lupus community too, is that we have to come off our drugs. I say we, but because most people know me, I always say we, but I don't have lupus, but I do think it's important that we clearly state, we're not talking about coming off all your medications. It's you still have to have the standard of care and your doctor is
Right.
still engaged, right, Dr. Mandayam?
Absolutely. They're
And
responsible for your care.
yes.
We actually give our patients the standard of care. So the pharmaceutical company that does the phase three does not want to run the risk of you not having standard of care and their trial being invalidated. So all of our trials, whether you're on the new drug or on the standard of care, you still get your medicines from us because we want to make sure you're taking the standard of care medicine.
Hmm.
They will not allow that bias to happen where the people on the placebo arm didn't take any medicine at all
Right.
because they couldn't afford it or they didn't have insurance.
Yeah, that's not an option.
So
But
we make sure that everybody gets medicine.
I think what Zarella is referring to in some of that fear is some of that historical memory, if you will. And I term it intergenerational
Yeah.
memory because in our, I say in my community, it's, my siblings were all scattered to the winds, mom's in Georgia, what have you. But in other communities, they're really still closely aligned. And so, although it may have been, I think Tuskegee actually ended in the 70s,
70s.
and Gila was settled in like 89 or 90. But when you say I want to go do this trial, and grandma's in the house, grandma's telling you, no, you're not. I mean, there's a whole different dynamic. And so, one of the things that we know, Zarel, is the pain that the community went through in the past created safer standards today. So even though it was horrible, I I I don't want to say it wasn't in vain, except Dr. Mandayam, the protocols now are safer. You know what's going on. You can leave at any time. Is that all accurate information?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can always say, I don't want this and walk away, and we won't hold it against you. We will still try our best to help you find you doctors. I actually find my patients doctors if they don't have specific kind of physician because now we know I have a network. I can pick up the phone and call somebody and they'll see you. We also try and get them medicines. Many of our patients decide this is not for them and they walk away. And then they come back 6 months later or a year later saying, Mandayam, I had something happening, I was going through a bad time, I was pregnant, whatever. And now they're like, I'm in a better place. I want to come and see if you have something for me. We also have those people that did so well with the studies. They're like, oh, I love this. I want to be in a trial because you cured me while I was on the study. So find me something that will help me. We have many that are like in remission. They just come by every 6 months to see how we're doing. So I think that yes, historically, people have done terrible things in clinical trials, but those days are gone. Now we have to be
Mhm.
fully transparent. You, Zirel, can look up the medicine, what it does, where it is, how did it come forth, what side effects do we know online. It is not secret. The only problem is if we haven't given it to a Zirel, we won't know how she will respond. So that information will not be there. Go ahead. Sorry, you're saying something.
No, no, no. I was listening. I was waiting till you finish. I'm sorry. That leads me into my next question, and I'm so sorry. I have a ton of questions. Okay, so if by this being a trial, which means it can go left or right, right? So left is good, right is bad. So if it goes right and things happen bad, what kind of treatment do we get thereafter if we had a bad reaction
We
to it?
have
Are
to
we left in the
own
wind or
everything
to
that we
figure it
do for
out
you.
or
Yeah. It is my responsibility as the trial doctor to make sure that A, it doesn't go bad, and we catch it as soon as we start realizing and get you the treatment for it. We
no,
have,
no, no. I get that part, but if it does, because you're not
yeah,
expecting it to, because we're hoping and praying for the best. Like nobody has that kind
right.
of reaction. But if it is to happen, what comes after that? You
My
know,
job
are
is to
is, do
make
we
sure.
is there a
Yeah,
certain amount of care that we get
yeah,
thereafter to correct the problem, or are we left
absolutely.
to our own devices with our insurance and things like that? What comes after?
If it happens during the trial, then I and the study is responsible for taking care of you. That is my job, not to see if the drug works. I don't care whether the drug works. I care whether you are safe. So if there is a problem, then my job as the principal investigator in the study is to make sure that you are taken care of and that you get back to where you were, normal, and that we find the problem and fix it. And that's what I say when people come through us and we find something, we send them to a specialist, we get them care. Because whether it's related to the study or not, it's still my responsibility.
Okay, that would make it a little easier. That eases my mind a little bit better of even wanting to try something because, you know, again, sorry, past experiences have taught me that, you know, if something happens, the doctor basically tells you to do all this stuff and still not listening to you, and they just kind of throw you to the wind. And
We
you're
can't
not.
do that.
You're saying we're past that. I'm getting over my fears. I'm working on it, but
But we can't
so,
do that, not
but
anymore.
but
We
this is
cannot
why I'm
do
asking the questions
that.
that I'm asking, you
No,
know,
good
so
question. We are duty bound to take care of you. The only time I cannot take care of you is you come and say, I don't ever want to interact with you, Mandayam. I'm withdrawing consent. I don't ever want to see you again. Then I can't take care of you. Until that happens, I have to
okay.
take care of you. If you sign consent and come into my trial, you are my primary responsibility, not the medicine, not the pharmaceutical company. They can take care of themselves. I have to take care of you.
Okay, well, that's something to sign up
And
for.
we work, obviously, I work in collaboration
You
with
just
your
hear that?
doctor.
She's signing up.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
Goes
No.
around, goes
And we have
around.
more, I think these are the kinds of conversations that we need to have with other people in the community because what you asked, you're not the first person or the last person that has
Right.
this fear that we're going to leave you high and dry and you're going to have some third arm growing out because I gave a medicine and then we won't ever see you or take care of you. Those things, you know, they're not allowed and not happening. And good doctors will take care of you. That's what the PI is supposed to be doing. Are all
So,
PIs across the world the same? I don't know, but most should be.
of course. But here's another question because I know someone who has lupus but is also dealing with other issues. Can your trial help them on the lupus side as they're dealing with their other issues?
I think so. There is some criteria to get. I think the answer is most likely yes, but we'll have to see them and go through their individual case. What you're asking is a rather non-specific, broad questions. I think yes, but I don't
Kidney
know until I
transplant. He
see
needs
them.
a kidney transplant, which most people have seen him. His name is Emmett. He needs a kidney, and he's been having a lot of issues with either getting a kidney and with his just getting a port to be able to actually have chemo and things like that. He's been having a lot of issues, but his bottom line is lupus, which I think is really affecting all the other stuff that's going on with him. So if he wanted to sign up for this trial, would he be able to?
Well, so I get me his information and I will look at him and we'll talk to him and see if we can
Yeah.
get him into a study.
We can
Okay.
connect you to him. He
Yeah.
is definitely in dialysis and pending. And so one of the things, that's why we talk about the questions for engagement wanting to come from the community so
Right.
that those kinds of considerations can be involved.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to, Doctor, I know, I mean, obviously we love and appreciate Dr. Mandayam, and you can see why. And he wants to help all the patients, and the pharma wants the best patients for the drug to pass, and the advocates, we want the worst patients to get in because they're the ones who need the help the
Need the
most.
help. Right.
And so, but it's those questions that are created to outline where Dr. Mandayam and we'll send this recording out. You can catch the beginning part because those questions right now are they're created with the pharma and some physicians, and then they go through all the stuff to get to the clinical trial organization, and then they're given to the patient. So we had one trial we worked with, and you had to have a written diagnosis of SLE. And we were like, well, that's a challenge. And so we had to come up with another way that the patient could get a new test if they didn't have a written test of SLE, but they have all the symptoms because the
Right.
people in the room weren't taking that patient perspective. So there's a lot more involved than just we want Emmett to be in it. And I'm just putting a caveat on it because I know Dr. Mandayam wants to help everybody, he's limited, the principal investigators are limited by the questions that are available that are part of the study of who's eligible to participate in the study. Is that right, Dr. Mandayam?
Absolutely. And I also think that when I meet Emmett, we'll figure out a way to help him, whether I can get him into a trial, get him better care, find a doctor that will work with him. Something or the other invariably comes out of interacting with us that is good for the patient. So some of us cannot participate in the trials because we don't cannot jump through the hoops that the sponsor has put for the
Mhm.
trial, but still we can help patients. So
Yeah,
if Emmett is not doing well, then we can look at him, look at his labs, talk to him, and figure out if there is something we can do outside the trial.
Okay.
because you're a good human being.
And
Yes.
also, not just me, right? Everybody that works with us, we're all, that is the goal of what we do, which is help others. So why would I want to spend time doing clinical trials when I could be kicking back and doing other things? It is because I think this is a good thing for society and
Mhm,
to help others.
mhm.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
I could be playing golf. Just kidding.
I think maybe traveling, skiing.
Correct.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions for Sean or Dr. Mandayam that you'd like to ask?
I want to ask Sean, what study was it? The ASKed study that you were part of for hypertension in African Americans? Which one
It
was it?
is the PCORI study. It is the
PCORI,
pressure check
okay.
study with Yale University, Methodist Hospital, and then we are the boots on the ground with Methodist. So we do the community aspect. So
Community outreach, yes.
yeah. So we would love to partner with you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. So let me get your contact from Anne Marie. So yesterday we were at TSU screening the college kids for kidney disease, and it's
Mhm.
crazy. There were about 45 kids that had protein in their urine. They had no idea. Out of the 80 that came through during lunchtime, 45 had proteinuria.
that's
These are like completely healthy, normal. They had no clue, never had any problems. A lot of them had obviously not seen doctors before and had no idea. And so I spent most of yesterday talking to their mamas and daddies saying, your son, your daughter has protein in the urine. We need to do further testing. So
Oh,
if we
wow.
try to look for lupus at TSU, I'm sure we will find quite a lot. It's there in the community. They are not
Yeah.
aware and they
Yeah.
don't even know how to find out what questions to ask. Forget come to a clinical trial. They don't
Yeah.
even know that they have this.
We want to, so we can get testing with Be Busy Wellness now. So
yes.
working
And
with no,
Wellness is one of our community partners. So I'm at
yes.
BB twice a month already at both of their
Yes.
locations. So this
We
may be able to
yeah.
work.
We have a working relationship and a referral program with Be Busy Wellness, and we're doing a voucher for a lupus test
Okay.
so that they can go to Be Busy and get it. And if they're not FQHC qualified, they'll just send us the bill instead of the patient. But if we can bring the mobile clinic on site to TSU for Lupus Awareness Day in April ahead of the walk, and then let's bring out National Kidney and Dr. Mandayam and your team, and let's do some more testing for kidney issue
Yeah,
there too. And let's not limit it to TSU because CUNY Homes is right there. So we may as well just bring them across the street
Absolutely.
and get them all in there. So I think we can do that. And I want to, I know it's a little early, but I think we've exhausted Dr. Mandayam with all of our questions and concerns, and we've gotten someone to sign up for a trial. So Zarel, I'll make sure you get the information on how to sign up. And each one teach one, as Oprah says. So clinical trials are safe, clinical trials are needed, and clinical trials need each one of us to represent the communities where we live and where we come from to be able to make sure the drugs are effective for everyone. Is that is that right, Dr. Mandayam?
absolutely. I think that every person with lupus should be looking for a clinical trial that works for them because I don't think the medicines we're giving our patients work for them. I haven't yet met a happy lupus patient saying, I am cured. This is the greatest thing that's happened to me. So we definitely, as doctors, need to do better. And I think that working with patients to help them help themselves is the right way to do this.
I think that's fantastic. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Dr. Mandayam, thank you. A round of applause
Not
for
at
our
all.
nephrologist.
Again, please call, email, text, whatever. I respond most of the time. So if you have a
This is
question,
true.
concern, send a message to me and I'll figure out a way to help.
Yep. And thank you, Ms. Sean, for joining us and speaking so plainly about the opportunities. We're greatly appreciative. And our board member, Cindy, thank you for joining tonight. I know you've had a crazy full week, so thank you so much for being here as well. With that, good night, everybody. See you next month. We're talking about nutrition with lupus.
Good night. Take
Bye.
care.
Night,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Raquel, I'll send that information to Anne Marie and she can share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you. Good to meet you.